Hello and welcome to a new episode of Constructing Kingdoms with the Violet Howler, a literary analysis of the Kingdom Hearts story. Today I'm going to talk about Yozora's function within the narrative structure of Kingdom Hearts in relation to common mythological archetypes. As many of you are no doubt aware, a lot of characters in fiction tend to fall into familiar patterns, many of which have been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. The Cursed Princess, the Heroic Knight, the Wicked Witch. Even in more modern stories, we still instantly recognize these ancient archetypes. When analyzing a story, recognizing what archetypes a character fits into is a crucial part of understanding what the creator is likely to do with them, and how all the pieces of the plot fit together to make the narrative work. Ever since Kingdom Hearts 3 introduced the made-up, in-universe video game Verum Rex and its protagonist Yozora, I've seen a whole host of theories about how he and his game fit into the lore of Kingdom Hearts. But today, I'm not here to talk about any of those theories, because when looking at the series from a literary perspective, the answer to what he is in terms of the lore is ultimately a byproduct of what he is in terms of the narrative structure. So let's look at what the last few years of Kingdom Hearts content have given us so far, and what it tells us about Yozora's function within the framework of the story. Yozora is first confirmed to be real in the secret ending of Kingdom Hearts 3, which opens with Sora waking up in a city that greatly resembles Tokyo's Shibuya district. Prominent in both the secret ending and the game's DLC is the 10-4 building, in place of the real-life 10-9 building. Shibuya and the 10-4 building are prominent locations in another Square Enix franchise, The World Ends With You, whose characters made their way into the Kingdom Hearts universe in Dream Drop Distance. At the end of their last meeting, Sora promises the World Ends With You characters that he'll come visit them in Shibuya someday. And one of the final shots of Kingdom Hearts 3's secret ending features Sora standing in the middle of the Shibuya Scramble Crossing, a recurring location in The World Ends With You. The World Ends With You centers around the Reaper's Game, a week-long series of challenges where the souls of the recently deceased compete for a chance at being brought back to life. Thus, the visual references to The World Ends With You in the secret ending of Kingdom Hearts 3 frame Sora's fate at the game's ending as a metaphorical death, regardless of whether or not he literally died. Kingdom Hearts director Tetsuya Nomura confirmed in KH3's Ultimania that the version of Shibuya shown in the secret ending was not the same one that The World Ends With You takes place in. But the use of the game's most recognizable imagery primes the audience to associate Shibuya with death and the afterlife, especially because the other side, as we learn the place is really called in Melody of Memory, is in real life a common way to refer to where the souls of the deceased go when they die. Meanwhile, the scenes before and after Sora fights him at the end of the DLC imply that Yozora's as-yet undefined powers have something to do with how Sora ended up there. When combined with the visual association between death and rebirth, it all indicates that Yozora's role in the story involves metaphorically guiding Sora from the world of the living to the world of the dead, leaving only one possible answer to the question of what place Yozora fills within the narrative. Whatever is going on with the world on the other side in terms of lore, it's clear that Yozora is a psychopomp. For those who are unfamiliar with the term, a psychopomp is a figure from folklore, legend, and myth who guides the souls of the deceased from the living world to the afterlife. You're probably already familiar with the idea of the Grim Reaper from European folklore or its Japanese counterpart the Shinigami, or Anubis from Egyptian mythology, Charon, Hermes, or Hecate from Greek mythology, or even the Valkyries from Norse mythology who carry the souls of warriors that die in battle to Valhalla. All of these are examples of the psychopomp archetype. And it is absolutely not a coincidence that the developers of Kingdom Hearts named one of the characters from the mobile games after the Valkyrie Skald. Because just like her mythological namesake, Skald of Kingdom Hearts is shown bringing a dying warrior to what would symbolically be a world of the dead. Skald and Ephemer appear to the player at the end of the original Key browser game as your character lies dying from the wounds they receive in the Keyblade War. Together, the two of them help bring the player into the digital simulation that the Dandelions withdrew into when the war began. But Ephemer and Skald are not the only psychopomp figures in Kingdom Hearts who have some sort of connection to data and computer simulations. During his boss fight in Kingdom Hearts 3's DLC, Yozora displays abilities related to data and simulations, while repeatedly talking about how he will save Sora. To further cement his status as a psychopomp figure, Yozora is shown to somehow be able to manipulate the final world, a place specifically identified as the last stop before the true afterlife, inhabited by the hearts of the dead who have not moved on from the world of the living. all of which is reinforced by the fact that Yozora was introduced right before the point on the heroine's journey that the descent into the underworld begins. Because like I mentioned in my previous episode, that stage is associated with death and rebirth. It is the death of the protagonist's immature youth, followed by their rebirth into mature adulthood. Or as Game of Thrones put it,
kill the boy, and let the man be born.
And much like how there are 3 different psychopomp figures involved in guiding souls to the underworld in Greek mythology, Yozora is not the only psychopomp involved in guiding characters to Quadratum and the other side. Where Yozora was implied to be involved in Sora ending up on the other side, it is the Nameless Star, the girl from the Verum Rex trailer, who enables Riku to open a gateway to that metaphorical underworld at the end of Melody of Memory. And while they are able to exit on their own later, Ephemer and Skuld initially stay behind when the data world begins to collapse so that Brain, Ventus, Elrena, and Lauriam can exit first. Just as the Psychopomp brings people into the underworld, so too can they help people get out. If Ephemer and Skuld are taken as a microcosm of Yozora and the Nameless Star, the Verum Rex duo will likely be instrumental in facilitating Riku and Sora's return out of Quadratum and the other side, since the Verum Rex duo were responsible for getting them there in the first place. One last thing I want to talk about is something I've seen brought up in almost every theory about Yozora and his role since 2019, the connections to Final Fantasy Versus 13. If you haven't kept up with the last decade and a half of video game news, what we now know of as Final Fantasy XV began development as a companion game to Final Fantasy XIII as part of the Fabula Nova Crystallis, a sub-series of Final Fantasy games built around a shared framework of lore and world-building. After 7 years in development purgatory, Final Fantasy Versus 13 was rebranded as Final Fantasy 15. Director Tetsuya Nomura left the project a year later and was replaced by Hajime Tabata, director of Square Enix's portable Final Fantasy titles Type 0 and Crisis Core. Between the rebranding and the change in directors, most of the original ideas for the lore, characters, and story were completely rewritten until the final game had very little connection to its original concepts. So it was to the surprise of many when Kingdom Hearts 3 suddenly introduced characters and ideas that were clearly based on elements of Versus that had not made it to the final cut of 15. Yozora and the Nameless Star were quite obviously modeled after the original concepts for Prince Noctis and Princess Stella, even before the ending of the DLC perfectly recreated shots from the original Versus trailers that did not make it into 15. The reason I'm giving you all this information is that Yozora and the Nameless Star's roles as psychopomps are not only supported by their portrayal in Kingdom Hearts, but are also consistent with the original concepts for Versus 13. Versus was originally planned to open with a party celebrating the signing of a peace treaty between the kingdoms of Lucis and Niflheim. At the party, Prince Noctis of Lucis is approached by Princess Stella of Tenebrae, who tells him of a legend from her home country. A basic summary of the legend is that people who have near-death experiences are said to be able to see the souls of the deceased ascending into the afterlife. As a result of their experiences, the people who witness this sight gain powers derived from the Kingdom of the Dead. After finishing the legend, Stella tells Noctis that she can see the light and that so can he, leading Noctis to conclude that they have both had near-death experiences. So even the characters that Yozora and the Nameless Star are based on were psychopomp figures within the lore of their original game. Meaning that Tetsuya Nomura's decision to incorporate these references to Versus 13 into Kingdom Hearts was not just because he felt like it, or solely out of spite over his ideas being scrapped. He is bringing these characters and ideas into Kingdom Hearts because there are clear points where the themes he wanted to explore with Versus overlap with the current stage of the Kingdom Hearts narrative. So whatever he does with Yozora, the Nameless Star, and the other side, whether he draws on the original concepts from Versus or does something entirely new, is ultimately going to be in service to Sora's descent into the metaphorical underworld. Meaning whatever explanations Nomura came up with for how Yozora fits into the Kingdom Hearts lore are ultimately going to be centered around reinforcing his role as a psychopomp. Thank you all so much for watching. If you are interested in more of my literary dissection of the Kingdom Hearts story, feel free to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you back here again on November 27th for my next video.